have given a name to my pain. The Batman.
Always waiting for some Batman to save you.
It's simple. We kill
The Bat of Gotham.
You don't really think you'll win, do you?
I'm Batman.
Hello and welcome to episode 134 of the Batman on Film podcast. BOF is the sponsor as well as a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network. Check out all the shows over at batmanpodcastnetwork.com and follow our Twitter at BatPodNetwork. If you're listening to us on iTunes, if you take the time to rate and review the show, we will read your review on the air right here on the podcast. BOF is also on Patreon, so if you like what we do here at BOF, whether it's the podcast or vlogs or the website itself, and you want to help support us, please head over to patreon.com/BatmanOnFilm to sign up. I'm the host of today's episode, Ryan Haas, and this is kind of going to be a 2018 wrap-up, 2019 preview, question and answer session from the listeners. We took a bunch of your questions, and we're just going to discuss and have a little chat. But to do that, thank goodness it's not going to just be me, because I would get really bored and tired of listening to myself for hours on end. So I enlisted the help of my pals. So with me today, we have Eric Holzmann. How are you doing, Eric?
Hello there, Ryan.
Hi. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you.
Yes. We're only 2 and soon to be 3 days into the into the new year.
Yeah.
We also have Mr. Garret Grev. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. Thanks for setting up the questions. I know we got a lot of interest.
Yes.
A lot of hot topic with the king of the box office right now and a few other things. I'm excited to talk about it.
Awesome. And to round out our panel, one Ryan is never enough, so we have the second other alternate Ryan, Mr. Ryan Lauer. How are you doing?
Hi, Ryan Haas. I'm doing great.
Great. Good.
All right.
All right. So we got the panel. So here we all are. I did want to say, Christmas wrapped up last week and everything. I wanted to see how everything went with you guys. Did you get any good Batman presents or DC presents, or did you catch up on anything nerdy or comic book related?
I got 10 pairs of Batman socks.
Whoa.
Wow. That's
10?
That's
10.
2 work weeks worth. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm wearing a pair right now. They're lovely.
Is it like each logo?
It's
symbol?
It's a variety of logos. One even has him on a rooftop.
Nice.
Man.
Just the black and whites.
Hey, I've seen some Batman socks that have little miniature capes on the back.
Oh yeah.
I have those.
See, I'm not making this up. I'm not making.
How do those feel with the pant leg? Is there a?
It just depends on how tight your pants are. My pants
Sure.
aren't very tight most of the time, so it's whatever. I kind of find it a little it's funny, haha, but nobody's gonna see them, so it sucks.
At the end of the day, it sucks.
At the end of the day, it sucks.
Unless you're wearing shorts or a particular tight pair of skinny jeans, no one's probably ever going to know the difference.
No, because you definitely don't wear calf socks with shorts.
That's true. I mean, hopefully.
Unless you're in the NBA, but that's a whole other topic.
We're not going there.
I didn't myself get anything Batman or superhero related, but I have the gift that keeps giving of 3 little boys who get all sorts of Batman and Superman and Spider-Man stuff. So Christmas at our house was very superheroic. We got a new large scale, I think it's Batman Missions maybe is the line, Batmobile, which the boys immediately fought over because it was super rad. We got a little Batman. They're called Busy Books. They're kind of good for like 3 to 5 year olds. So our 4-year-old was right in line with that, and all the kids wanted to play with that. The only problem is they're super small. So for our almost 2-year-old, we kind of had to break his heart and take the little toys away. Now just look at the pictures, buddy, because you put everything in your mouth. But yeah, I think my gift I sort of gave myself that was comic book related, superhero related, was the DC app. So I did get a chance to enjoy a bit of that. Watched a bit of not my favorite Batman movie, but Batman Returns, because it's so seasonally appropriate.
Yeah,
and
I watched it over the Christmas.
Yeah,
sure.
So the other gift that the Grev family got was the gift of strep throat. Everybody got strep throat. We were all miserable and sick. So
awful.
Me and my 6-year-old hammered through Mask of the Phantasm and Mystery of the Batwoman. That was pretty fun.
That's awesome.
That is good.
I don't mind Mystery of the Batwoman.
I need to
I thought it was
revisit
pretty
Great,
good.
but I mean it's enjoyable.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, the only Batman thing I got for Christmas was the Batman Rebirth ornament, the Hallmark ornament.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
nice.
it's nice.
It's got the big mid jump with the purple cape and everything. It's a big ornament.
Yeah, it is. It is. It was cool. I didn't expect it, so it was cool. I usually my mother usually buys me one Christmas ornament every year, and normally it's Star Wars because me. So yeah. So I had seen the one where he's sitting on he has the Santa hat on. He's sitting on the bat signal.
Yep.
I had seen that one. So I was surprised to get this one. I figured if she was going to get me Batman, it might have been that one.
Yeah. We got that one this year, and my daughter, I mean, I have turned her into a Batman fan. She's only barely 1.5, but man, she loves Batman. And that ornament, she walks up to the Christmas tree and she's like, "Hi Batman, hi Batman," and she'll wave at it until it talks to her, and it tells her not to look at the presents, but she doesn't care. It's just Batman. And then we've got the Batman '89 Batmobile, and she always points at it and makes me press the button so it plays the Batman '89 theme, and then she just dances to it. We do that like every day, so kind of don't want to take the tree down. I know, and since she loves Batman so much, we got so many people got her Batman stuff. Yes. She's got like little Batman Fisher Price figures, and I got her a Batman plush from Hallmark that's toddler size, and if you shake it, Batman says Batman phrases like "I'm Batman" and "Here's a batarang" and to action.
Batman phrases
justice.
like "I'm Batman."
But pretty much that's what it does.
Have you seen that gift pack of like all different colored? It's the Batman costume, but they're all different colors. They have like pink for girls, and they have the black one.
Oh no!
My friend's daughter got it. I want to say she's 4 now, so it was probably about 2 years ago for her birthday. I remember she got all of them, and it was all the different costumes of all the superheroes, but it had different Batman ones.
I've been thinking about like a Batman cape or something, because I think she'd get into it at this point. But for myself,
we got some. Sorry, I was going to say we got some. Just thinking about like particular types of product, for young kids, little kids, whatever. And you talking about your 1.5-year-old reminded me. The boys have been really getting the Legos, but some of the larger sets, like the Batman Lego from the movie line, is a little bit complicated. They've got some really cool Lego Junior sets right now that are out there, and it's sort of Batman in general. They're not all stylized exactly like the movie. But the younger kids, our youngest is almost 2, so he really couldn't do much more than just try to break them apart. But our 4-year-old had a blast with these. So it was kind of nice because it feels like there's ebbs and flows. Typically with Batman, there's always a lot of merchandise out there, but in particular, it felt like this season there was more for younger kids, a little bit more accessible, which I thought was pretty rad.
That is cool.
You mentioned that, and I also actually got finally the Egghead Lego Batman movie Lego set.
Oh,
I have longed for an Egghead something, and I finally got it.
Well, there you go.
So excited. Yeah, it was a big moment.
Excellent.
So what were you saying? What'd you get? What did you get yourself to enjoy?
The Lego Batman movie Egghead set.
Oh, got it. And then Ryan, what was your gift that I interrupted and stepped all over?
No, that's all right. I just I've been trying to catch up on my backlog of things to watch, and I finally found time to watch the Teen Titans: The Judas Contract. It's been out for like darn near 2 years, and for some reason I skipped over that one, and I've caught up and watched and by all the other DC animated movies, but that particular one I just hadn't watched, and I finally watched it, so I can cross that off my list. It was pretty good, but I especially if you're familiar with the Judas Contract, and the only thing I've been familiar with prior to that was the way they did it in the the Teen Titans animated series, which I liked quite a bit, and but I still haven't read the actual book, so it was fun to watch the movie version. And I also just today I finally watched the Blu-ray version of Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero, and it was spectacular. Like the audio quality was really impressive, which surprised me, and of course the video quality was really nice. In HD, it looked even better than Mask of the Phantasm, probably just because it's a couple of years older or younger than Mask of the Phantasm. It's newer. It's a newer film, just by a couple of years, but. Yeah, and it has those CG scenes intercut in with it and stuff like that, and it held up really well, I thought. And as a kid, I thought I liked Sub-Zero, but it wasn't my favorite. I always wanted to watch, a regular episode or Mask of the Phantasm or something instead, but probably because it's not your typical Batman story. There's a lot of, plainclothes people, Barbara Gordon and Dick Grayson in it, and the story structure is not like your typical Batman and Robin just go and fight people kind of thing. But I had watching it in this new restored format, I had a much better appreciation of it than I did a few years ago. I always liked it, but I think it's really strong. Especially,
I need to go back and revisit that one.
Yeah,
actually, when I said we had watched Mystery of the Batwoman, I was looking for that one on the DC Universe app, and it's not available right now. It's cultivated type thing.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend either getting it on Blu-ray or just getting it as part of the animated series Blu-ray because it's the quality is so good. Like, it's shockingly good compared to even like if you just go and I think the digital versions now might be in HD, but you might have to like go to a specific place like Vudu. It might only be HD on Vudu or something like that. But yeah, when you said you watched Mystery of the Batwoman, it made me think of Sub-Zero because that's one I wanted to catch up on, and it I was impressed by it. So it's definitely one to kind of go back to and revisit, I think.
Well, my birthday's coming up, so
there you go.
Might have to get on the old list.
Yep. So it has been a couple of weeks now since Aquaman has taken the box office by storm. So when we did our last episode, we had only seen it once. So I wanted to ask what your guys' thoughts are kind of in general right now and how many other times you've seen it. I have seen it 3 times, as I alluded to on the last show. So I saw my first viewing at the Amazon Prime screening, and then I saw it the following Saturday after release at my Alamo Draft House, and I got a special Aquaman Mondo glass, which is pretty cool. And then over Christmas, we went and saw it at the IMAX in Knoxville, Tennessee, in IMAX 2D. And I do have to say, like, if you could still see Aquaman in IMAX, I would totally do it because it looks so good, and I think it really deserves to be seen in that format. I really wish I could have seen a 3D IMAX show, but they only were showing it at like 10:30 at night. But I know Eric saw it at least once.
Yes, I saw, and I saw a 3D IMAX. When did I see it? Last week. And I mean, as much as I liked it in the standard format, it was just 20 times better. The depth of the 3D, especially in the ocean scenes, really gets you in there. Like, you really, really can see deep into the water, and that's what 3D brings. It's not so much what comes out at you anymore; it's what the depth of the screen.
The depth. That's cool.
Yeah, and that was awesome. And then, of course, like you said, in IMAX, you really feel like you're at an aquarium at certain points. You're like, wow, this is really awesome. You're watching all the with the colors and all the fish and the swimming. The action scenes obviously are enhanced too in that format. It was just so much better. If you're gonna see it, anyone who hasn't seen it yet, and if you can afford it, I know it's a little bit more money, but spend the money. It's worth it.
Have you seen it twice, Eric, or was it the standard for Prime?
And then 3D? The IMAX, yeah.
See, so I've seen it twice as well. The first was the Prime, and then really wanted to go check it out in 3D because I had heard good things. And Eric, to your point, it was more about, you get the depth of the experience as opposed to sort of the gimmicky look what's jumping out at you. When
right.
3D sort of made its resurgence a few years back, it was sort of kind of stuck back in the 50s, 60s style of, oh, look, something looks like it's coming directly at your face. and that wasn't quite for me, but where it's come in the last couple of years with the depth of experience, and you don't always necessarily realize that they're doing the effect or the 3D overlay when they are to kind of pull you into the movie a bit more. That sounded fantastic, but same thing. They for me, they didn't have a 3D showing in a theater with a time that made sense. So I did see it in IMAX 2D, and even the difference between the standard theater and the IMAX 2D. Oh my gosh, the scenes. I mean, they really fill up the frame, and that's not just to say because it's a large screen, but you can tell from a cinematography standpoint that it was shot purposely to be displayed, in that format, and it was really all encompassing and pulled you into the movie in a way that was, quite a bit different and just gorgeous to look at.
Yeah, like, you can see this in like the Dark Knight trilogy, or Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises on the Blu-rays, where most of the standard film shots will have the the black bars, but then when it goes to the IMAX version, it'll like take up the whole screen. It's kind of like that in Aquaman, which is good. Some movies like that aren't shot for IMAX, that are in IMAX, will just be blown up to fit the larger screen. But the movies that look the best on IMAX are, of course, the ones that are filmed with IMAX cameras, and Aquaman, a lot of Aquaman was. So what was cool was at the beginning, I was like, are we going to see IMAX scenes? It's just bigger. It's not filling up the whole screen yet. And it took a little while to do that, to switch to the bigger format. But once it did, it kind of stayed there for most of the movie. Yes. It takes a little dip. It kind of goes away during some of the Italy scenes and action scenes with Black Manta. It goes back to the normal, but then as soon as they get back out of that and ramp into the third act, it just goes right back to the full IMAX, and it doesn't really let up that much, and it just looks incredible, really.
The one really awesome 3D scene is the scene where in Sicily, where Mira falls with all the wine breaks and she forms the.
Oh, I bet.
In 3D, that looked 20 times better. Like, it was just incredible watching that. There's certain, like, the action parts of the 3D scenes were obviously a little bit more enhanced because it really came out, really was well defined and came out at you. So
it's still showing up here in I'm in Minnesota, as we talked about before on I think the last episode. It's very cold, and you look for reasons to stay indoors. And it's still showing in the Minnesota Zoo. The Minnesota Zoo has one of the oldest IMAX screens in the United States. And it's one of the true IMAX proportions. So, like, if you go to AMC or Regal or something, you get a version of IMAX, but it's not quite the true proportions.
Right.
And I would really like to go check it out there. They still have it running, I think, for a couple weeks yet. I think it was actually extended showings at the Minnesota Zoo. So, I mean, that's just enormous. I can't remember how many stories tall, but that true IMAX screen is where I saw The Dark Knight, and man, it's about 25 minutes from where I live now, but any chance I get to go see a movie that has, scenes or big chunks of it filmed specifically with IMAX cameras, that's the ideal setting. I know those are few and far between, so that might not apply to a lot of listeners, but there is a difference, and you can look it up online, what has the true original IMAX format, it's specialty screens. A lot of times it's museums or zoos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I lived in Illinois, I would drive an hour east to Indianapolis to the IMAX screen there, and man, it was awesome. I got to see like Rogue One in that format, 70 millimeter like IMAX film, and it looked so good. So I definitely know what you're talking about, and yeah, if you're anywhere close to one, I would totally recommend it because it's worth it. But if you're listening to this, you probably already know that. If you're a fan of these films. What about you, Lauer? Have you seen it more than once?
Yes, I saw it the Amazon screening, and then the day after Christmas I went and I saw it in IMAX, in 2D IMAX, but IMAX nonetheless.
Yay.
And it was... my comfort zone is whenever I can have a hoodie on and I can just put a hoodie up. And it was cold the day after Christmas, and the theater was a little chilly. So I got into IMAX, I reclined back a little bit, and I threw up my hoodie. And then when that movie started, hot damn was that just awesome for 2 hours and 20 minutes. Because it really did, as Garrett was saying, it just sucked you in. it was just like you were in it. I even just stopped eating my popcorn and just, I don't know, just absorbed. And then as the picture expanded and whatnot, and when it expanded, everything just looked so much sharper. And it was just, I don't know, it was an engrossing experience. So
yeah,
because that was just kind of my thing. I'd seen it the one time and I was like, oh, I definitely want to see it again. And I need to see it in IMAX. And oh, I'm glad that I did. I don't know if I'll get to watch it anymore in IMAX especially, but it's like, at least I got to, because that was, for me, that was the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've got one more viewing in me. So probably, and not because that's all I want. It's just, busy, family man time with the kids. It's, getting away to movies that you can't bring them
especially
to.
multiple times.
Right, multiple times. You sort of get the first one, and then I tell my wife, hey, I'm going to go check out Aquaman again with this other buddy that couldn't make it the first time. She's like, okay, yeah, it was good. I get it. But if I'm like, I'm going to go see it 3 or 4 or 5 times, be like, all right, honey, I get it. You like the fish guy, but, it's 2.5 hours a time, so let's be reasonable with how we spend our free time here.
I get it. He takes his shirt off. Okay.
No, that's what's going to get her back. She was a big fan.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of that, I mean, the film is doing really well, really nicely at the box office. I was wondering if Eric, you were telling me some box office stats earlier, but I mean, I just saw something on Twitter. I mean, it's already passed Venom and Solo to become the number 9 blockbuster from 2018. I think that's domestic only.
Yeah, that was. I saw that. That was
and like
numbers.
worldwide, it's over 800 million already, headed towards 900. So.
Worldwide, it passed Wonder Woman already, and I went to Box Office Mojo today, which is January 2nd, and initially I thought, it was, I think at the point yesterday or the day before or something, it was about 20 million behind Wonder Woman for like same day, as in like up to that point of like 10-day gross and stuff, and Box Office Mojo today has Aquaman at a 12-day total. It's only 6 million behind where Wonder Woman was at after 12 days, so it kind of caught up a little bit.
Yeah, it's at pace with it. So,
yeah.
Which kind of to me, if you remember Wonder Woman when it came out, it opened at the lowest. It had the lowest, opening weekend of any DC EU movie, but it was the leggiest movie. Like it kept on and it kept going and going, and word of mouth, it was a good movie. People enjoyed it,
and then it made 410.
Right.
So that's insane.
Yeah. So so the fact that Aquaman is kind of keeping pace with it, and the fact that it's doing so well, especially overseas, I think it's going to have a little bit more legs too. I don't think there's not much competition for it for the next couple of weeks, at least until I don't know Glass or something.
Yeah, Glass is the next.
Is that what's gonna knock it out of IMAX probably?
Yeah. Oh.
But still,
I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to start getting it out of more of the premiere formats, whether it's IMAX or some
usually
of the larger
IMAX
screen
only.
formats.
I mean, you're usually lucky if you get 2 weeks in IMAX. You're usually lucky, especially in the middle of the summer or a big movie season. So the fact that Aquaman's getting it like as long as it is, for a couple more weeks probably, that's good. That's good for the movie. So
yeah, and I think
people will keep watching it.
Yeah, to the worldwide gross. I think it's definitely in the top 10. I think it may have broken into the top 5. Otherwise, it might be right behind Venom at number 6 for worldwide grosses of 2018 movies. So that's pretty impressive considering it had a limited amount of 28. Oh, definitely. I think, and I'm not 100% sure on how some of the box office calculations work if they tie it back to the year it was released when those total numbers are looked at for the rankings when things are all said and done. It'll definitely pass Venom this week, but just if you look at calendar year only,
it'll stay on the list of 2018 movies.
It will,
yeah. So it's going to be up there. I don't know if it probably won't at this point break into the top 4 because I think Incredibles 2 was at like 1.2 billion, and then Jurassic World was higher than that, and then you have
which
Black
I
Panther.
can't believe, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't heard the best things.
Yeah.
I dug it.
Jurassic World. I thought you were saying Incredibles.
No, Incredibles was good.
Too.
Yeah. Okay, well, good.
Incredibles was good. But I meant Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, the second one. Yeah, I didn't like the first one either, though. So that's
Zip it.
Oh,
Sorry.
Zip
Oh,
it.
Eric.
Sorry about that.
Zip it.
But man, really just low. Look at the number 2 for 2018 currently is like Black Panther at 1.3 billion, and then you go to Infinity War and it's
Yeah.
Over
2 billion, which is just that shows you the amount of difference there is between number 1 and 2. It's pretty staggering. I'm interested to see what 2019 is going to do because they're like I said, once Glass comes out, it's kind of like the start of a little miniature superhero explosion here for the first couple months of the year.
Yeah,
a bunch of movies coming out.
The days of having to wait till summer to see any sort of superhero themed
Every
blockbuster
quarter
are
really
long
is
gone.
a thing. Yeah.
So I want to pose a question to you guys. Shazam obviously is the next DC title coming out in April, right?
Yeah.
So, but I know for me personally, I wasn't too excited for seeing it, but now that I saw Aquaman, I'm excited for the brand, and I want to see Shazam. Has Aquaman changed your guys' opinion on Shazam at all, or your anticipation for it, or?
I was already excited for Shazam, and my expectations for Aquaman were just I was lukewarm. Like I was going to see it anyway, but I wasn't like super excited. But after seeing Aquaman, I was like so pumped. I was so happy. I was so like energized and for the franchise moving forward. I'm like, yeah, Aquaman was great. It was fun. Like now I can't wait to see Shazam. It's only a couple months away, so I think it has made me a little bit more excited for it.
Yeah.
For me, I was already excited, looking forward to Shazam, basically after that Comic-Con trailer. But I guess to bring Aquaman into the picture, it just seemed like Aquaman was, like James Wan, director, got to do what he wanted. Like he was on an island, getting to do whatever he wanted with the movie, and this was his vision. And it's like, and it turned out this well that I just really hope that was kind of like for the studio, that they saw that was such a good result that they let.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
well, now
like
it's the second example, or
hopefully
second example with Wonder Woman, and third if you count like Nolan. So
yeah, so I'm just hoping like that they're confident in like, see, we did let David Sandberg go off on an island and make Shazam, and maybe they're confident now like this is just the way to go. And does that make sense? That I'm just kind of hoping Sandberg just got to do what he wanted, and we're gonna see that in April for better or worse. But I mean, all things look toward at least an entertaining movie. So
yeah, I don't think any of the directors now will sign on for a project where they don't get to make the movie they want to make. So I think that's kind of set in stone going forward. That whatever constructs we have, we're gonna do what we need to do to make the movie we want to make. So
yeah, for
Garret?
me, I've been excited for Shazam, and definitely was going to my ticket was already essentially purchased. Like they're going to get my money. There's no question about that. But I went with my buddy Brandon, who's a little bit more of a general audience type guy, and he looked at me and goes, "Dude, I'm so excited for Shazam now. Like it just kind of gives me confidence. Like these are going to be good." Yeah. Like yeah, I'm right there too. The thought I had, Aquaman was, except for a line or two, pretty separate from things that had happened in the DCEU, prior to this. There had been a lot more rumors about tie-ins and the old winks and nods in Shazam. And then, some conversation of maybe, projected cameos weren't going to happen, and maybe they could play some things off different ways. And with the success of Aquaman, I just, I can't imagine there's going to be a lot of tinkering at this point with the cut of the movie. But it makes me fairly confident that this will be what the cast and the director have come out and said. Really set in that universe. I think it'll be its own story. But with the success of Aquaman, I'm a bit more confident that it will stay within the realm of the DCEU while being its own contained story, with maybe a few more references than we saw in Aquaman.
Right. I mean, from what we've seen from the trailer, it kind of leads that way anyway. So we'll see going forward. It was cool to see that trailer too on that bit large screen that I got to see the Shazam.
Yeah,
trailer.
we got to see it too. It looked awesome.
Yeah. So I enjoyed that.
And I think I shouldn't bring it up without having the numbers in front of me, but I'm fairly certain the budget on Shazam was a bit lower, quite a bit lower, $50-60 million lower than Aquaman.
And I think Aquaman itself was a lot lower than like BVS, for example. You know?
Yeah, sub 200 million. I think I want to say Shazam was in the 130 range, something like that, maybe 140. So I think the success of Aquaman will drive people back in to see another DC Universe movie, and I don't anticipate the box office being as strong at this point, but I think from a profitability standpoint, the studio is going to be very happy with how it performs.
Yeah, I mean, it's a more lighthearted film, so, you know, I think that's going to bring in a different audience, too. It might bring in people who are looking for more of a comedy-type deal. Yeah. That's definitely what Shazam's going to be. So.
And Aquaman is easier to segue into that, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's like, oh, we just saw this Aquaman movie, it was fun. Another DC movie is like, it's fun, like it's family friendly, as opposed to like Batman versus Superman was kind of an adults only kind of thing. Suicide Squad, it's pretty much should be rated R. Suicide's in the name, you know. It's like,
right, yeah.
And Wonder Woman was kind of the outlier, so yeah. So it just kind of does seem to. I don't know. It seems like baby steps towards some sort of, trust in the name, like brand recognition kind of stuff. I think, especially if they're smart about how they market Joker when it comes out in October, of being like, it's deliberately its own. It's DC, but it's like DC Dark or DC Black Label, whatever.
Right. Like, I wonder if they're gonna do that. Yeah, I wonder if they're going to give it a specific label.
They keep saying they will, but then again, they still haven't given the DCEU the official name either.
Right. That's true.
But, it's still pretty fascinating, because now it seems like they're almost done playing catch-up, and the ball's almost in their court. You know what I mean?
Right, it almost seems like it's playing, and I don't want to. I hate to do this, so please bear with me.
Don't do it.
How many times have we read this?
Ryan kind of led me in, so I'll just run with it. It's just, you had the 10 years with Marvel ending, and now you're rolling into this, and it's kind of like an open field. So I think that for this specific space, you have that now. That they have a bigger chunk of that, because we don't really know what else is coming outside of Captain Marvel and whatever comes next. So
it just feels like we're getting a little bit away from the less accessible nature of the previous movies, and
that's a good way to put it.
Aquaman was a fun, wild ride with a ton of humor, a ton of fun, but definitely told its own story in its own way. And if that's a precursor of things to come for DC, I think we'll have a lot of happy fans.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was important. Like, this movie was huge for what was going to happen in the future. If Aquaman tanked, I don't know. I don't know what we'd be looking at going forward. So the fact that it didn't, and it's sailing along...
Stop.
I think is great, and because especially for us, we all love these characters. We all, obviously, Batman's a DC property. We love DC properties. So this is awesome. This is great.
Yeah. So I guess we can get into some of the listener questions. A few of them, I think we got pretty much the same question from both Brian Reiser on Twitter and Matthew Pwitz.
Yes.
From Facebook, and they were both asking what we want to see in an Aquaman sequel, like plot and villains, and what would we want Aquaman 2 to entail? Tail.
You guys are just on tonight.
Yeah.
For me, I think I mentioned it in the last episode, and I think where the familial aspects go in the next movie could be really intriguing, because I want to know what happens to Queen Atlanta, and where she spends her time. How does the rules of succession play with a regent queen? And now that Aquaman is solidly on the throne, Aquaman didn't do the mistake that I think a lot of superhero movies have historically made, and it didn't kill off the villain. So we have Orm there that whose point of view may have changed now, knowing his mother is alive. Obviously, this is all spoiler stuff for us tonight. So what that dynamic looks like between, Arthur on the throne, Orm, doing whatever he's doing, imprisoned, maybe reforming, maybe
He's in
not.
exile. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Atlanta, maybe she is back on land. Maybe she is still in Atlantis. Maybe it's a combination of the two, but how those character dynamics work together in the next movie, I think could be really intriguing. Obviously, I want a ton of action, and adventure and fun, but I think that dynamic could be really, really cool to explore.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. And that's what I thought too, that they very smartly both didn't kill Orm, and they even set it up where Aquaman's like, when you're ready to talk, let's talk. I like that. And I like it leaves the door open for more of a like a Thor Loki kind of uneasy truce kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to be able to bring a villain back in a sequel in a different way than the straight up villain that they were
It's funny
originally.
In growing up in those first superhero movies, it's like, Batman 89, they killed the Joker, they killed the Penguin, Catwoman was alive, but she didn't come back. Two-Face was killed, to where it was just kind of like, oh, so I guess it's just one movie and the villain's done. And I like that aspect of leaving that open now is such like a, I don't know, it's just so different from the early superhero movies that now it's like Orm could be in all three movies.
Right.
Assuming that there's three, whatever. He could be in more than one. He could just be in two. They maybe won't bring him back. I don't know. But the options there that, I don't know. Yay.
Yeah,
definitely.
and obviously Black Manta. I mean, I think everybody, 99.9% of people want to see more Black Manta. So I think that's fine. That's a clear. You set him up in the first movie, so I think doing more with him is something you should do. And they set up so much lore in this movie that they can really expand on it and story wise in the next movie.
I like
with all the other kingdoms, you had all the other kingdoms that
right.
were mentioned in the film, so you could go in that direction if you wanted to. Obviously, the end credit scene sets up Black Manta to be a bigger part of the sequel whenever it comes out, so you're going to get more of him. And that's really where I want to see. Okay, now we have Aquaman. We were exposed to Black Manta. We know a little bit about him, but not too much. Okay, where does he come from? Why is he doing what he does? Let's just get. That's what I want to see in the sequel. I want a little bit more exploration with Black Manta, because although I liked the character and I liked how he was action-wise and the costume's great, I didn't connect to him at all. I didn't really care about him. If that's one of the gripes I had about this movie, is I didn't really care much about that character. So for me personally, I want to see more development with his character in the sequel.
Yeah, you're definitely just getting a little taste of the character at this point. It was like the Black Manta appetizer, and right. I'm ready for the main dish, and I think how he interacts with Arthur as Aquaman is on the throne. I want to see that character progression play out. We saw the transition from dude bro Aquaman in Justice League, and the character changed a bit in Aquaman, quite a bit, where you saw more of a rounded character. In the movie intentionally did that, right? Juan said he wanted this movie to be the thing that took you from the Aquaman we met to Aquaman the King.
Right.
But going along with the rest of the kingdoms, how is Aquaman, how is Arthur going to unite those kingdoms? How are they going to feel about following his rule as someone that grew up on the surface and was just, trained here and there over the years now as their king? And how does that change his character and how he relates with those around him? Do you get an Aquaman that has to behave a certain way in his regal formal role, but a little bit more of what we've been used to from Momoa, sort of in the more personal moments? They have so many directions to go, and the movie smartly set up, like we said, the opportunities to explore all of them.
Right. Ryan.
Haas or Lauer?
Let's go Haas. Yeah, remember we got to go last name's Haas.
Okay. Lauer, Haas.
Haas is going to say more Mira, but that's a given.
So what do you want me to say specifically?
What are you looking for in the sequel?
You were starting a thought, and I think we cut you off, so I apologize for
okay.
that. So go ahead and continue your thought.
I already lost my train of thought. What I was going to say, so in addition to the Orm could come back for as long as they want, obviously with Black Manta, but I think what's good to look forward to, and maybe people that read that have read Aquaman comics a lot more than I have, I don't know how or what they're going to do with Black Manta, you know? It's not like it's predictable as if like, oh, he's going to come back because he's going to do this or he's going to do that because this happened. It's kind of like, as we just said on the last podcast about Aquaman, that if they never made another Aquaman, it's like they almost tied everything up to where this could be it and it'd stand on its own and be fine. And that definitely includes with Black Manta. So I don't know. It's like, but we know obviously he's going to come back. So I'm looking forward to just seeing that damn suit again. Because I love that suit.
Right.
Obviously it's going to be different somehow because he's going to have to upgrade it and repair it and all that. But
bigger helmet.
Yeah. But I don't know.
An even bigger helmet. Like a Hector Hammond level head.
Wow.
I was going to go Spaceballs, but yeah, Hector Hammond works.
Yeah.
But no, I think that the whole, now that Queen Atlanta's alive, I think we discussed that on the last podcast too, of like, how does she fit into Atlantis now? Especially with their son being king, but she's queen. Mira's technically a princess, and now that she's shacking up with Arthur, the king, it's kind of like so I guess some of that dynamic of who's leading what part of Atlantis and stuff, that could be cool.
Yeah, do we get a royal wedding? Does Black Mantis come back and crash the royal wedding? And
I hope not in the second one.
Yeah, give it a little time to breathe.
Yeah, a little further down the line, I hope we get that, but not in the second one. I don't want to see that.
The blue wedding, Game of Thrones style.
Sure.
Start gunning fish.
Oh boy. No. The thing I was going to say too, along with the uniting the underwater kingdoms, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with Atlantis, and does Atlantis become common knowledge to the surface? There's a storyline in the comics around Arthur essentially having some role as a diplomat to the surface, and I think it might have been even the United Nations. So that could be really interesting too. Does Aquaman, does Atlantis stay in the underwater shadows, or is this become something that's common knowledge? And how does, not that I need to sort of have the approach that we took in Man of Steel with, how would the world respond to a superpowered being in the real world, because we've moved on past that, but what does that interaction look like, and how would the surface world respond to, like, oh my gosh, Atlantis is real, crazy, and there's, one of these guys wants to attack us, the other guy wants to be cool about it, like,
well, not to mention, you had that Dr. Shin guy popping up in the movie that he was on, he was on the newscasts and stuff talking about Atlantis is real, and now he has proof that it is, so he's not just all of a sudden going to just disappear.
It makes me think of Jurassic Park. I think a Aquaman sequel that deals with that or tries to deal with that might run into the same kind of issues as Jurassic Park does, because it's like, is Jurassic Park more fun when they're exploring what happens when the dinosaurs start interacting with the real world, or is it more fun when you're just in the park with the dinosaurs?
I have the same. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think Aquaman's going to have the same, road to travel when you're like, do we want to see Atlantis interact with the real world, or do we just want to kind of stick with Atlantis?
Yeah, I think I have similar thoughts, and I go back and forth on what I prefer, and it just depends on who's telling the story with Batman. Is Batman better? Does it work better when he is the urban
without
myth?
Gods? Yeah,
without gods. No, right? I was going to say when he is the urban myth that people aren't sure exists or not, and some people think he is a supernatural creature. Some people just think it's a legend and nothing at all. Or does Batman work when he, the bat signal's out there and he's walking around, downtown Gotham in daylight, via the 60s series running for mayor, is it better in the shadows?
When that whole thing breaks down is when you're like, you can't have like, this is a tangent, but you can't have one group of people that think, oh, Batman's just a myth or legend, and then, or like, I don't think he's real. But then on the other hand, it's like, oh yeah, but we have Batgirl and Nightwing and Robin and Huntress, right. And you can't have like 5 or 6 or 7 other vigilantes in Gotham that are Batman related, and then still somehow think that Batman himself is not real. It just kind of doesn't work at that point. But I totally interrupted what you were saying, Garrett. So,
oh no, man, I'm good. That was exactly kind of it. Is like, I think there's a place where you could tell the story, and it stays this separate thing that not everyone's aware of, and it's a ton of fun. Or you could go big and say, this is going to have real implications for the larger world, and it kind of guides the stories that you're able to tell at that point. I don't think one direction or the other has any more or less merit. I'm just interested to see which road they choose.
Yep. Yeah, me too. So we've got some more questions here. I think this is a good. We've got a couple of good ones from Ollie. So he was saying, like, with Aquaman's success, do you think it would make WB more confident to make movies like The Flash and Green Lantern Corps?
Yeah, I mean, I would think so. Like we were just talking about before, I think now, because you have these two successful, you have Wonder Man, you have Aquaman now. I mean, Wonder Woman, sorry.
Wonder Man. Wow.
And Aquaman now, it says you have these two movies that did so well, you should feel confident to try other things. And especially the solo film, that seems to be that seems to be the way it works.
Yeah.
So,
I think it bodes really well for Flash in particular.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's next on the docket for sure. I would think. I
wouldn't be terribly surprised because, they've sort of said, we're going to make Green Lantern Corps if we start hearing some development on that in the first half of 2019 now. Just because I think the big screen adventure, the type of story you're going to be able to tell, sort of otherworldly, and most of Aquaman was otherworldly, just below the surface, but not something we are used to in every day, and the visuals that go along with it. I think that could translate really, really nicely to the studio, seeing that type of appetite existing for Green Lantern Corps in a way that they didn't bring the character to life with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, I mean, if there's there is no better environment that has been fostered than for superhero movies than what we have right now. And although the Green Lantern movie that they made with Ryan Reynolds years ago, like, kind of didn't hit the mark, I think the environment we have is just so forgiving for second chances that they can do it, and it can work, and it can be fine.
And the audience is exposed to so much more outlandish properties where it doesn't need to be grounded. We don't need to see a Green Lantern movie where 80% of it takes place on Earth. We don't need to see an Aquaman movie where the majority of it happens on the surface and just references Atlantis, right? Like, we've had Guardians of the Galaxy, we've had Doctor Strange to a different level, Thor. Aquaman is a prime example of, we went to a different world here, and because the story was good, and because quite frankly, the audience is used to these properties not having to be the Chris Nolan approach, which is not to say anything bad about what The Dark Knight did. The Dark Knight trilogy did. It did a very particular thing about grounding this in heightened realism. And I think the audiences are so much more accustomed to saying, we don't need this to be realistic at this point. We can go along for the ride if you tell us a great story with intriguing characters and good visuals. It doesn't need to be a version of what I see in everyday life plus a superpowered being there. And that kind of is the same approach to Man of Steel as well. I think the audience has moved past that a bit at this point.
I don't know that Aquaman necessarily had any kind of morale boost for the Flash for Warner Brothers, but I just kind of feel like, aside from Batman, Flash is just a really safe bet for them, and I'm kind of surprised that they're still it's been so quiet on any kind of development on that.
I think it's just been because they really they had to wait and see how this did.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of everything has been held back. Even for something like the Batman. Like, we haven't heard a lot. We heard about scripts, and it seems to be taking a long time, but still, the brand itself was not doing well. It was kind of on life support. Yeah. And so with this movie now, it injects a ton of adrenaline into the future for the brand. And I think that's what we're going to see now. Everything that was put on the back burner, now we're going to see, okay, yeah, let's do a Flash movie. Let's try Green Lantern Corps.
Right.
Let's go forward with all the other properties we have. I mean, I'm still shocked that Shazam was made.
Right.
I mean, when you think about where they were when they decided to do it, I'm still shocked it was made.
Well,
so
I frankly I feel the same way about Aquaman. And you have Aquaman and Shazam coming out right next to each other. It's really kind of fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting. In the amount of time that post-production is played in Aquaman, I think was good, right? So Juan, wanted to do this, big budget, special effects spectacular, and that requires more post, but it also gave the film more breathing room to separate the audience just a little bit from, either a movie that they saw and didn't love in Justice League or skipped altogether, and even more time, from Batman versus Superman, to kind of say, all right, we're ready to go again. The appetite has been whet a bit more. And I think that could be, I think that's going to play well for Shazam, as I said, but I think it did a lot of good for Aquaman. And after the opening weekend, I guarantee you there were a lot of executives at Warner Brothers that released a deep sigh of relief. And then in weekend two, I mean, they just had to be, I think, what did Bill say years ago, like dancing the conga after. They
had a super New Year's Eve party, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Sure
this conversation kind of segues into one of the questions we got. We got a question from Trey Jackson, and he was talking about some of this stuff. He says that he said, I think the existence of Aquaman might be an example of how a shared universe can bring some great movies to the screen that we wouldn't otherwise see. Would we ever get an Aquaman movie that looks this great from a filmmaker like James Wan without some kind of prior investment driving it forward? I kind of doubt it, but I'm curious what you guys think. And it doesn't exist to serve some other future movie. It's just its own thing. The shared universe it exists within didn't limit it at all, but it did help facilitate it. That's what I hope to see from DC movies going forward. My opinion on this is I think Aquaman is an example of how well that a individual filmmaker-driven movie can work despite the shared universe kind of just bumbling along. Right. In my opinion, like it certainly didn't do Aquaman any favors. Aquaman was introduced into the DCEU just because they wanted to introduce a bunch of Justice League characters into the DCEU and kind of get it out there.
Right.
But the fact, I think, that James Wan was rightly so, like, wanted to make his own movie and decided to, make it work apart from or in spite of or just stand on its own legs, basically. I think was smart because it was going to work the way he wanted it to work, regardless of the success or non-success of whatever setup was happening.
I think the casting was huge. Picking someone as cool as Momoa.
Yeah.
I think that probably is a huge reason why people were already invested and of course, obviously, we know that women were much more invested in this than they probably would have been had it been someone different. So I think that was a huge part of it as well. I do think the fact that they set him up cool, even if you only saw BVS and you saw that the last scene at the end where he's, whatever he's doing in the little, in the little videos of the metahumans that Wonder Woman's looking at. I think that showed that he was a little bit cooler. All right, here's Jason Momoa. He looks cool. I think if you want to put any stock in it, as we know, not a lot of people saw Justice League, but the people who did, he definitely was a different take on the character than most people had seen before. So it definitely, I think it might have heightened it a little bit, at least, to want to see a solo film from him. So to Trey's point, I think yes. I don't know if we get a standalone Aquaman movie just out of the blue.
Well, and that was going to be my point. I'm not sure what it did for the audience overall. But I think because we know that, work on this movie was well underway before Justice League was released. And, a lot of, you hear differing reports, but I think the consensus agreement is most people at the studio expected Justice League to do better than it did, even if they did have major concerns, obviously, with everything behind the scenes. I don't know if you get this director with this budget to make this movie had none of the previous movies existed. Now, that might have changed if it hadn't been so far into development before Justice League happened, but I don't know that you get to a $180+ million budget with James Wan in this cast without the previous investment into the universe overall.
Lauer?
I have nothing to add that you guys didn't hit. I don't want to just repeat everything you guys just said. So, yep.
Yeah. For what we currently have, yes. Like, Aquaman exists because the DCU was set up to, in theory, support it. But what I would hope is that, with movies like Aquaman and Wonder Woman, that maybe Warner Brothers thinking can kind of be more towards like, hey, we can just not that we just have to do solo movies, but we can give a filmmaker a property, and if their pitch or their vision is strong and they can just make their movie, it'll kind of be good. And it's kind of like a no-brainer kind of thing, but hopefully this is, the performance of Aquaman and Wonder Woman, I hope, is teaching them that they don't have to have all this framework to make good movies that people, that resonate with people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Haas is super agreeable tonight. It's great.
Yeah, I am. So I got a few questions from our pal Rob Myers. He is saying, for Aquaman, what was the moment that you thought you were watching something special or different? And for me, there was a few moments in Aquaman. I think just whenever they would do Atlantis stuff, whenever they would whenever Vulko used Atlantis vision, and you would just see all the bioluminescent plants and stuff like that, or some of the fight sequences, and then towards the end when he's getting the trident and stuff, like there's all these little moments in that movie where I just thought like, oh, this is awesome. Oh, I love this. Oh man, they should just make 100 Aquaman movies like this. And I think those fist pump moments, I think, are so it's built into that movie because it's one of those great. It's got a lot of great movie moments, and it just makes you want to, watch it again and again or have more sequels. And I think that's good. I think the DC movies don't have a ton of those moments overall. Like, Suicide Squad is kind of this flat tone for me, like the whole way through. But Aquaman is fun, and I think that counts for a lot for me.
For me, it was when Dolph Lundgren came riding a seahorse. Now, we'll laugh with that, but that was funny. But then if you think about that scene, it's when he was talking to Orm, and then there was so right there you had actual acting that was quote unquote underwater. And that was just something new and something different. But then they brought action into that scene as well. All underwater. And to me, I think that was the point in the movie that I was like, this is something that I'm not trying to over-exaggerate or anything, but it's just like, I haven't seen something like this before. And it's really working for me. And then it just kind of goes more and more. So for me with Aquaman, I think that scene is what... Because, you think about it... way before the DCEU even started, the thought of an Aquaman movie and people riding seahorses underwater is just like laughable, and it's a joke. And you watch that, and I know that's what I just keep going to with Aquaman, but it's like, it's an idea that on paper used to sound ridiculous, but they made it happen to where I was in for it, and I thought it looked pretty cool. So for me, that part just kind of took me into like, this is new, and I like it.
Me, it's much more simple. It's the moment I heard they were making it.
Yeah, you were on board from the start.
Yeah, to be honest, I never thought I would see Aquaman made into a movie. Like I said, the thing we got on Entourage, when the show Entourage, that Aquaman movie, I'm like, well, hey, there's an Aquaman movie. That's what we're gonna have in my lifetime. And the fact that they actually made this movie, that was I knew right away. I'm like, this is gonna be completely different. And when I knew Juan was doing it, that too. When I heard Juan was directing, I'm like, this is gonna be a very different kind of film. So that's what it was for me.
For me, the thing that when I was watching it, and it happened very early on, and I saw something, I said, "Oh wow, I think this is going to be a really cool movie. I think it feels like this is going to be something that was lovingly crafted and that details were paid attention to," was right in the opening sequence. And it's after Atlanta had been rescued and brought into the lighthouse, and the camera zooms in on a snow globe and then sort of pans out and the snow globe becomes the total scene, and it's the method we get to let us know that time has passed, and we zoom in through the window and find the family together and baby Arthur. And I thought that was such a unique and really beautiful shot that I wasn't expecting, and it felt like it was Juan had set that up in a way where he had a specific vision for how he wanted to tell the introduction of the movie that was visually intriguing, really brought an element of fantasy and romance to it. And I thought, wow, what a really smart choice that didn't have to be made, and was surprising that they kind of put that little extra detail and fantastical element to it. And I said, I think I'm going to be really happy with what comes after this. So it was quiet and it was a little bit understated, but it really stood out to me early on.
Cool. Yeah. So, more questions. There's one that I thought was pretty interesting from on Twitter that I saw from @Batboat77, and he said, with the tremendous success of Aquaman and Wonder Woman, is there a chance that this delays any potential Batman movie, as WB feels no need to rush it as it now has two bankable heroes? I am not sure about this. I mean, they know that they need Batman, but I think at this point they know that they need to get Batman right. And when you have an Aquaman movie that's making $800 plus $900 million, and Wonder Woman that's doing the same, like, not that they don't need Batman, but that's giving them the leeway of making Batman what it needs to be. And apparently for Superman, doing nothing.
I
don't depress
think
me.
that Aquaman's success had anything to do with their mindset on Batman. I think before the movie started playing, and this is just completely guessing, but it's like they know what Batman is to them, and just the fact of since Reeves signed on and it was announced that he was directing, and how quiet it's been for so long, I think it was just like we're taking our time with this to make sure that it's done right. He's gonna have his time when I've got the story, the script is good, things start to fall into place. So I just don't see how Aquaman being a success or not impacted Batman, you know?
Well, I mean, it could impact it in the. He's saying, like, it's not making Warner Brothers antsy in terms of, because remember, that's kind of what they were doing with Affleck. Like, where's our Batman movie? Our Batman movie yesterday. Like, or why are you not making this? It needs to, because they were trying to get that movie in theaters for summer of 2018, if you remember. So the fact that they're, that plus, so it seems it is interesting because maybe, that experience of that not working out well for them, plus Aquaman and Wonder Woman kind of doing well on the DC films front, is allowing Batman to kind of be done when it's done.
It just slows it. They don't need to rush them.
Yeah, I think that reassures WB that the course they have already sort of set on for Batman is the right course to take.
Yeah.
And they don't need the influx of Bat cash to keep these properties or the studio afloat, because they can make their money while doing the right thing and in crafting the next Batman movie the way that the director wants, and that will be hopefully the quality that the audience wants. There's no need to rush. I think if anything, it said, hey, we made the right call here, and we don't need to get an itchy trigger finger around getting a new Batman in cinema, but by 2020 or something.
100%. I agree with you 100%.
Let's see. Here's an interesting question. This one's also from Ollie. He said, could Patty Jenkins or James Wan direct a Justice League movie, say, in 5 years? Give them something different, yet still involved in DC. And James Wan seems like someone who'd enjoy making a Legion of Doom versus Justice League movie.
Kind of like the Russos. Like the Russos did with Captain America.
Yeah,
and
they started... Yeah.
Right?
Well, so, but for that, I think that the difference is for that, Feige and Marvel, they knew they wanted Infinity War.
Right.
And they needed people to kind of head toward that. And I think that's what Warner Brothers was doing when they were like, we need Justice League Part 1 and 2. But now that they're seeing that solo movies with strong individual filmmakers are doing just fine. I mean, maybe they'll just let it be up to the filmmakers. For me, I think that the telling thing is going to be, we've got Aquaman, we've got Wonder Woman, Shazam comes out really soon this year. If it does well, that's and if Joker does well, that's obvious like check marks for the solo films made by your strong single filmmakers. But then the interesting thing is going to be things like Suicide Squad 2 and Birds of Prey, because those are going to be that's your next evolution of the team up Justice League like universe type movies. And I think I would look more towards them, like in terms of a Justice League or something having to happen. But I would almost hope that for those specific filmmakers, like I would only want James Wan or Patty Jenkins making a Justice League film if that's what they want to make,
right?
Which it seems like that'd be more if it was down to those two directors. It seems like a Justice League would be more up Wan's alley. But I would almost want to see Jenkins more, because I have no idea what she would come up with, and I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah, I'll take, I know the question didn't ask me to do this, but if I take those two particular filmmakers out of it, I know there's a lot of people on the BOF team that would disagree with me, and our fearless leader would probably be one of them.
You're fired.
I know, right? I got to watch what I say. I don't believe at all that WB looks at where they have these properties and what happened with Justice League, and they say, well, washing our hands of Justice League, we're not doing that again. I fully think that the leadership of the studio says, we want to get this right at some point. We took our shot at Justice League, and it fell flat. But that doesn't mean that we don't ever want to see that title with these heroes be successful. So my hope and what my if I was going to forecast this out, I think we stick with the core main heroes in their own individual solo titles. You see some of those peripheral crossovers, Haas, like you mentioned. But I would have a hard time imagining a future where 5-10 years down the road, and probably closer to 5, just given contracts, if we have continued success with these solos films, say, all right, let's get the band back together and we're just going to play better songs this time.
It's smart. If the solo movies are doing well, then you'll have more anticipation to see another Justice League movie, right? Like that's kind of where they fumbled the first time. They stumbled with Batman vs. Superman. They were so rushing everything, and then boom, we got Justice League, and it was a mess. So I think if you do it the right way this time, and you're doing solo films, and you come to a point where you're like, you know what, we can try this again, I think they'd be silly not to try it again.
And we have a story to tell. It doesn't have to be...
As far as the story just makes sense.
It doesn't have to be prefabricated, and I don't want a bunch of solo movies that are designed just to lead up to Justice League again. But if there's a story, and we have to remember... like ego plays a role in these things, right? And it's not always negative. Sometimes ego can fuel some of the greatest works of art, around, and movies are no exception there. But I have to believe it's a thorn in the side of DC and WB execs to say, we have this long-standing team and title made up of some of the biggest names in fictional characters, period, let alone comic books, just fictional characters, period, and we didn't get it right. And there is, while this, I don't believe in the DC versus Marvel from a business standpoint with the creators or the executives, but I do feel like there's got to be some driving internal desire to say, we need to show what we can do with this. It's unacceptable that we fell on our face, and at some point we're going to give it a go again and have it be a success.
Yeah, the timing has to be right. The further you move away from this current Justice League that we had is better.
Yeah. Here's a question for you. What do you think we'll see first? A Justice League sequel or Green Lantern Corps?
Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah, Green Lantern Corps for me.
You think that's what we're most likely to see happen first?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so.
I hope so too.
Well, yeah, no, I hope.
That's what I hope.
So.
But
Yeah.
I don't know what to think. But that's what I hope.
You're just saying you said we had to choose, and I'm choosing now. If it's like, do you think they're going to happen within
Choose what you
years? Like, I don't know that we're going to see either within 4 years.
I would have to say I think that Green Lantern Corps would happen first, solely because we know that it's being worked on in some capacity. You know, because Jeff Johns has his production company now, and that's one of and he's kind of focusing on that. You know, I think he started kind of from scratch on the whole thing too, right?
Yeah.
For that movie, so the fact that that's being done when we haven't really heard anything about a legit Justice League sequel, I think, I don't think that they're not ever going to do it, but it's got to be so on the back burner with everything else coming up now.
Yeah, and I think because we don't know what they're doing with Superman, if anything.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the
Exactly.
bigger
That's
question.
exactly it, Eric. What I was going to say is I was going to flip it and say, what do you think we get first, another Superman movie or a Green Lantern Corps? Because I don't think you get any sort of Justice League movie.
4.
Yeah, right. Whether it's a Justice League sequel or a different approach with a Justice League moniker attached to it without Superman. I think they've got to get Superman right if that ever is going to happen. And, you know, time could be a factor on some of these things. You know, you've got contracts, you have stars whose star power is rising, and thankfully, you know, all of them have expressed, all of them, you know, Gal and Momoa have expressed the desire to keep playing the characters, but at some point, you can kind of outlive that, which makes the window for opportunity shrink.
Yeah, especially for team up stuff. You know, you got to hand it to Marvel. Like, all of their stuff is working team up wise because they've kind of plotted the movies to head towards that thing. And that, yes, that kind of can make the individual films kind of ebb and flow and go up and down, you know, in terms of what your perceived quality is. But as a complete through line, or in terms of the actors' contracts or their, you know, overall character arcs in the whole MCU, it's pretty darn, you know, complex and pretty well done. And just the fact that DC and Warner Brothers is juggling so many balls, just trying to figure out, you know, how they want to play the game. Some of the balls are going to drop are obviously going to be, you know, well, first it was a bunch of directors, and I think soon it's going to be some of the actors, obviously, too.
Yeah, the logistics behind the production of these movies has a huge impact. So things would have to line up the right way.
Yeah, the only one I know that also said he wants to continue playing the role is Ezra Miller. He said he wants to continue playing the Flash. So those are the three that we know for certain. Godot, Momoa, and Miller are the three that I know are down for a while. And Miller's the youngest of those three, I think. So.
Well, and I'm guessing Ray Fisher will sign up to keep being Cyborg if and when he's ever called upon again.
Please,
I hope he is.
Yeah.
I thought he was good.
You know, damn, Aquaman made me rewatch Justice League over the past couple of weeks.
It'll do that to you.
And I tell you what, we talked about kids at the beginning of the show. My daughter loves the first 5 minutes of Justice League. I've watched the first 5 minutes of Justice League like every day for the last 2 weeks because she freaks out whenever she sees Batman, and she loves it so much. And so it is giving me a slight appreciation for that film, just because, man, it gets a reaction out of her. She loves it. You know, Batman. It's freaking Batman. He's on the movie screen, so he's real. He's in trouble again. So, but yeah, I mean, I did rewatch Justice League, and Ray Fisher's great. He's one of the best parts of that movie. He sells that character so well. You know, I don't think he gets enough credit for how well he pretty seamlessly sells this. You know, and for all this, you know, the shoddy CG or the rushed CG, I gotta say, in Justice League, man, they did not skimp on Cyborg. They figured him out. And the fact that Ray Fisher is able to work with, you know, all of his body being CG and his face, he does a really good job. And it would be a shame if we don't see him in something else again as that character.
I agree.
Yep.
Yeah, they just need to slap him in a Flash movie and just do that. Just make it a team up or have him be a important part of it. I don't know.
Well, the
Yeah, kind of like Black Widow and Iron Man 2, right? Like they threw her in.
Yeah.
Well, there was rumor for a while that it was going to be a Flash and Cyborg movie.
Well, it wasn't even a rumor when Rick Famuyiwa was working on the script. He tweeted out a shot of the script he was working on with his revisions and had a Funko Pops of Flash and Cyborg there. So,
and they have that that moment when they're digging Superman's grave.
Where are the accidents?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So there's a little build up there for them already.
For as bad of a choice as I thought that scene was, and how many countless different ways they could have gotten around that, their dynamic in the scene I thought was great. Yeah. And I'm not the world's biggest fan of Ezra Flash, but in that scene it really worked. The fist bump and he pulls it back that just doesn't work. In that moment I thought, those two characters together were really good. And I would be on board, for more of that at some point. I want them to continue to get these characters right. To whoever said the point earlier, Flash is a bankable star. He's recognizable. You see the merchandise. Obviously, he's in the zeitgeist with the WB show. So it seems like it should be low hanging fruit. And I would really someday, when there's a book written about this period of time and movie production, I would love to get more inside information around what has been the challenge, with getting Flash to the big screen, because it feels like it should be something that is a slam dunk, and clearly it's been a struggle.
They've been trying to get Flash movie made for so long. I mean, even before Batman Begins made it to the theater, David Goyer was working on a Flash script.
Ryan Reynolds was rumored as being in the running for it, too.
Oh, yeah. He would have been great, too.
Well, think about it.
Just play everybody. You should be Batman and Flash and Green Lantern.
Yes.
And
it's
Deadpool.
had 2 TV shows. It had this 90s TV show Flash, and now it has the current one. How many other their properties could say that?
Superman.
Yeah.
Well, like Smallville and Lois and Clark.
Smallville, Lois and Clark, Superboy, and freaking Krypton, and
has anyone?
There's lots of Superman.
Has anyone gone back to watch the Superboy series on the DC Universe
seen
app?
It, and I've never will.
Oh,
I've never seen it.
Give it a watch.
It looks so cheesy.
It is a hard watch, man. That is something I didn't.
Oh yeah, and the old Superman series too, the George Reeves one.
Yeah,
that one too. Yeah.
But I had romanticized that Superboy series, and I didn't catch a lot of episodes when I was real young when that was out. But I went back and took a look at a few episodes, and man, it is something. It is really something.
It does seem like something. I did watch the review they had of it on DC Daily, but I have rewatched the entirety of Lois and Clark. When the DVD sets came out, I rewatched it all, and I don't think I ever really had. I had just seen it piecemeal as a kid, right? Because it was in the mid '90s when it came out. But when the DVDs came out, I was like, man. So I rewatched it all, and a lot of it holds up better than I thought it would. Although you got to take a big grain of salt when you watch it, because you're like, it's like cheesy '90s like TV, and they do some goofy stuff in it. But what's interesting is like the chemistry between Lois and Clark works so well. They carry that show through some of the most convoluted, like, season-long arcs from hell, where, like, there's amnesia and then clones and then, all kinds of craziness. But I enjoyed that show. I still enjoy that show.
Did you ever see the show Moonlighting from the 80s? No, none of you. I'm showing my age here. But Lois and Clark was moonlighting with superheroes. Let me just leave it at that, and we'll continue going forward.
I've heard that. I've heard that before.
Yeah, it was very much like that.
There's I got two more questions to wrap up the show here. One is from another one from our pal Rob Myers, and he was asking about the Joker movie, and he wanted to know if our thoughts have changed any since the initial announcement for Joker. For me, not really. Like, whenever I've just kind of been a sideline spectator, and I'm just kind of sitting back and seeing what happens, and I hope the gamble pays off, but we'll see.
Mine changed. Initially, I was very skeptical because I'm just like, I don't need a movie starring the Joker. I don't need an explanation on the Joker. I just take the Joker name out of it, and it's a movie about Joaquin Phoenix as a clown. And I'd have been like, oh, okay, I'm interested. But them slapping Joker on it, I was just like, and hesitant. When Todd Phillips released that little 20-second thing, that sold me completely. Which is so funny to me that a 20-second thing of...
Yeah. It's like a mood board.
Yeah, like
trailer,
it just hit
screen
the
test
mood
thing.
that it sucked me in. I just loved that thing so much. I can't even tell you how many times I watched it. And I'm like,
it's like
I'm in now.
I don't know. It's almost like a mini mission statement for the movie or something. I don't know how to describe it. But
releasing that before the Spy Picks came out and stuff, and it was just, I don't know. That was just, to me, the smart damn decision on their part to just release that, because that got me amped. And it's just kind of like anything that's come out since, it's just only pictures, but like it's only been icing on the cake. So it'll be interesting once they release a teaser trailer or a trailer or something. But initially, that little thing is what really changed my mood, feelings.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Lauer. I really had no need for it at first. I was like, okay, whatever. They're gonna do a Joker movie, and I used air quotes when I said Joker because I didn't really, It's like, all right, fine. They're gonna. But yeah, once that little piece came out, I started to get intrigued. I started to get a little bit more intrigued as to what they're gonna do, and then some of the footage that I've seen, and the fact that it was shot in New York, and since I'm from New York, I'm kind of interested in that, and. So I went from being I don't really care to now I'm kind of intrigued and I want to see where they're gonna go with this movie. And he's a great actor, so it's always a safe thing to watch something he's in. So
yeah, I think I probably had the biggest turnaround on it. So when it was released, or when the rumors were starting to circulate about them maybe making this movie, and then when they made it, put out the statement that they were, I was like. Total facepalm, like, oh my gosh, DC, WB, you have not learned your lessons. Like, this is just a cluster. Why would you do this? You're going to confuse and alienate your audience. You don't get what is so intriguing about the Joker, and you haven't gotten the mass audience to buy into this Batman yet. What are you doing? This is just awful, terrible, bad decision making. And then the more that came out, I was like, okay, so. It might be. Oh, and by the way, that was still when they were talking about a solo Joker movie for Leto, right? I'm like, this is just a mess. What are you doing? And then the more information that came out about it being a separate thing, it's like, okay. I saw some. They weren't even tied. Yeah, they weren't publicity stills or anything, but just pictures of Joaquin Phoenix, and man, he looked really gaunt, and he had grown his hair out, and I was like, okay, man, the guy's getting into the role. This could be interesting. Obviously, he's a good actor. And then, like Haas was saying, or sorry, Laura, like you were saying, that little 20-second clip came out. I'm like, wow, the mood of that is really pretty interesting. And the look was different enough. And as it became more and more clear that this was going to be a movie about a man that seems to go through some sort of, one bad day or however they're going to approach it, and then become something else. And it's this like gritty, dirty story of, human failure or change or whatever. And that started pulling me around to the point that I am looking forward to seeing it. I really hope that this is what they've said it's going to be, and sort of the one and done. I don't need it to be a Joker franchise. I don't need to retrofit it into any of the other properties, which I highly doubt would ever be the case. But, I went from just like, oh my Lord, why are you doing this? This is awful, to, all right, let's see what happens. I'm intrigued, and it seems like it's going to be high quality. And Todd Phillips as a director has some darkness to his humor. He's known for his comedies, but there is always something a little bit unsettling about different choices he's made. To see where he goes with this, seems like he's going to be exploring that whole side of his storytelling. I'm interested to see what he does from a director standpoint.
Yeah.
The only thing I've been from the beginning, the only thing I've been hesitant about with this movie is the tagline is very Killing Joke-ish.
Right.
So every time I read that, I'm like, I really hope they're not doing a direct adaptation of it.
No.
The tagline is, a failed stand-up comedian is driven insane and becomes a psychopathic murderer.
Yeah, the little synopsis. Yeah.
Yeah, so like you have that. That's stuck in my head. So that's my only. I'm kind of like, I really hope they're not doing this, but we'll see. I mean, I'm intrigued enough to keep it going, to keep watching, and I want to see it. So I probably would have anyway, to be honest. So
right, yeah. I mean, it's it's Joker, it's Batman, but it's just like what's your level of fanboy outrage? I mean, for me, I'm really just trying to keep an open mind, just because it is kind of this separate thing. It's R-rated, it's Joker, it's I don't know, it's Joaquin Phoenix. That's really interesting to me. So I don't know. I'm just sitting back. I'm gonna enjoy it. Come October, we're gonna see a Batman related movie in the theater. That's cool. So
yeah, they're going to get my my $12 for one viewing for sure. We'll see if they get the repeat.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess last question. I don't know if this is a question for everybody, or hopefully it's not just me though. Eric,
well,
have you? What? Go ahead.
No, I have a funny one. So after we do this one, I'll bring that one in. Someone submitted
great.
a funny one, so I'll do it.
Okay, great. So, Titans. Is everybody caught up with watching Titans on the DC Universe?
I haven't seen an episode.
I am one episode back.
So you need to watch the quote season finale.
Quote. I've heard enough to know what that means.
I am up to the finale.
Yeah. And Eric has finished.
Yes, I have finished.
So our buddy Jeff Hunter was asking on Twitter, what do we want from Titans season 2? And I just want to see a proper end to Titans season 1. So, but really, I mean, I want to make it brief because I want us to do a full Titans season 1 recap show at some point soon. But yeah, I just want to see more Titans being Titans together.
Yes.
The season finale, while cool, did not wrap up things in the way I expected, and I think that's my overall kind of assessment of the season. There's lots of fun ideas and interesting things happening, but it was so, like, story structure wise, it was so haphazard. It's almost like they didn't know what show they were making until they were almost done making it, and they just had to kind of put it out there. I don't know. Right. It's kind of interesting.
I think it was more that they didn't know it was going to get picked up.
Right.
So
they
that's what it was just like, here we go.
It does seem like, because if you read reports, I mean, it seems like that they had an extra episode and a finale for season 1, another episode, and that could have easily just been the finale if the show didn't get picked up for season 2 and they had a proper ending. But since it did get picked up for season 2, they kind of made what was going to be the finale of season 1 the opener of season 2, and so the penultimate episode of season 1 just magically becomes the finale. So it kind of like is obvious when you know that and you watch the episode. You're just like, oh, it kind of just abruptly kind of ends without a season arc like wrap up kind of thing. So it's kind of a weird structure anyway, and the fact that they kind of leave it on such an open note, you do expect shows to give you cliffhangers and stuff, but you also expect them to kind of wrap up a season arc, and that was kind of suspect to me. But I'm still excited to see season 2, and overall, like, Titans has really impressed me, especially I pretty much done like a 180 from my initial like gut reaction. I was going to give it a shot anyway, but man, the marketing was just not working for me. But then after watching the actual show, like I'm a fan. So
I've come a long way from F Batman, right?
It really has.
Yeah,
it really has.
Just being one episode back, I'm going to assume this hasn't happened, but even if it did, you guys don't have to tell me. Based on
be careful because Lauer hasn't seen it, so be careful.
Based on the initial, I think this is safe, Lauer. I don't think you'll hate me for this. Based on the initial first couple episodes, I would have bet money that that Dick would have transitioned to Nightwing halfway through season 1. And, I'm guessing that didn't happen in the finale, but to this point, like, I'm 4 episodes past where I would have like put money down that he's done with Robin, is on to Nightwing. So that was interesting. That'll be, if that doesn't happen in the finale, I would definitely want to see that next season.
Well, that's gonna happen eventually. So
Yeah, if they've got Jason Todd, that's the thing I want to see. I want to see more Robins. I want to see. I'll see Nightwing. I want to see Jason Todd's journey, and I want to see Tim Drake. Get a live action Tim Drake on there.
Get Carrie Kelly in there. Let's go nuts.
Yeah,
Carrie Kelly.
Then you could just rename the show to Robins.
Right. All right. So I have one final question.
A finale question.
Yeah, Andrew Miller. He's one of our BOFers. He says, now that DC has finally elevated Aquaman for ridicule, is it finally time that the Wonder Twins get their theatrical release?
Yes, a dark, grim, and gritty reboot of the Wonder Twins.
Form of water.
Right, yeah. Maybe mix some Game of Thrones creepiness in there.
Right? As a kid, you guys know, I love Super Friends, so... I've always said, I wonder if they could do an adult Wonder Twins and make it cool. I don't know how they would make it cool.
I think they could. I mean, obviously, Wonder Twins are getting their own comic book series,
right?
In the very near future, as part of the the new Wonder Comics imprint, curated by Brian Michael Bendis. So it is interesting they're coming back into the spotlight, and as DC has shown us over the last year or two, after they've started to do all these Hanna-Barbera things, they're doing last year we saw a grim and gritty Batman and Elmer Fudd comic book. So if they can pull that off, they can do anything. I mean, they could.
True.
So of course they can make a dark and gritty Wonder Twins movie, but
I hope they don't though.
I don't. That's not something I want to see.
Yes,
No.
they can, but they shouldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
If it's a one-off, maybe if it's
questions. No.
If it's a one-off like the Joker.
It's in the universe.
If
of the
we get
Joker.
a Wonder Twins movie before we get a Superman sequel,
I don't even know what I'll do.
That's the post-credits scene of Joker.
the
Wonder Twins.
Yeah, if that happens, I'll just quit on the spot.
Failed sketch comedy duo
Nope.
become homicidal maniacs.
They were like magicians.
Yes.
Yeah, the brother always tried to turn into something, and he kept failing. So
I like it. Now I want it.
That's it. There's Ryan. Lower. Write it.
Eric Holzmann. I don't know. But okay, I'm on it.
Write it, buddy. Write it. We'll make it. We'll get it produced.
This is your
We'll get
year.
it produced.
This is my year.
Awesome.
Gonna turn it all around.
Well, man, I think we covered a ton of stuff in this episode. It was a good chat. I think it's always fun to do these kind of year-end wrap-ups and next year looking forward to what's coming down. I mean, this beginning of the year is super packed with stuff, and I don't think it's going to let down. This could be a very fun year, I think. We had to wait a long time to have Aquaman, but now that it's here, I think we're just going to not really stop having fun DC things experience in 2019. So
yep.
I think that's going to be a good time. So I guess that wraps up today's episode. For Eric, Garrett, and Ryan, I'm Ryan. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Hey now! You've been listening to the Batman on Film podcast, a proud member and the sponsor of the Batman Podcast Network, BatmanPodcastNetwork.com. You can listen to the BOF podcast on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, TuneIn, and wherever good podcasts like this one can be found. Want to advertise on the BOF podcast? Go to advertisecast.com/the Batman on Film Con podcast. Follow Jet on Twitter at Batman on Film and on BOF's Facebook fan page at facebook.com/jet.batmanonfilm. Email Jet via jet@batman-on-film.com. I'm announcer Rachel. Thanks for listening.